Every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning.
For the latest issues.
All right, sir. Thank you for staying with us, everyone. Incidentally, that's as much we can take from Comrade Cheta this morning on that discussion. But the points were very clear as to how that this issue of leadership deficits, or if you like, flawed system of governance is not limited to Nigeria. It's an Africa-wide phenomenon that needs to be addressed as quickly as possible. We'll continue with this conversation after this break. Please do stay with us. Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all. From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning.
For the latest issues.
Always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
All right, we understand we still have Comrade with us quickly. So Comrade, while we appreciate you for your time and patience, and of course for these very valuable insights and sharing on the program this morning, I was going to ask you, there are people who believe that as it stands today, the challenge Nigeria and of course indeed Africa is dealing with is the, if you like, interference or the interaction that we have with the West, especially as it has to do with these Bretton Woods institutions, the World Banks of this world, the IMFs of this world, and what have you. So they are now saying that Africa must strategically and systematically, if you like, divorce itself from the apron strings of these entities. Is that a realistic expectation or demand to make?
Sorry, I didn't get that. Repeat the question, please.
So I was saying that there are people who believe that Africa would have done far better politically and socio-economically at this point, were it not for the interference by foreign actors, especially entities like the World Bank and the IMF. Therefore, their call is very vehement now, saying that there is need for Africa as a continent, maybe not in total, maybe one country at a time, to divorce itself from the apron string, so to say, of these multilateral institutions. Do you think that's an extreme ambition?
Well, one of our greatest undoing as a continent is the Bretton Woods institution. The Bretton Woods institution has also always posed itself as an opposition to the growth of Africa. You know, they usually come up with different policies and all that, and they give Africans run to these Bretton Woods institutions for loans, and they present themselves like they are supporting Africa to help Africa grow and all that. But they have continued to bedevil us and to make life difficult for us as a continent. You know, when they even give loans to most of, like the World Bank, when they give loans to most of these nations, they do what they call resource-backed loans. and they back whatever loans they are given with resources. And sometimes they collect more than what the country has actually collected as a loan. Now, eventually, so we have continued to have these particular challenges. The problem and the only solution to African problem is the African unity. African nations must come together and unite. Recall in 1963, during the formation of the African Union, we had a situation where the likes of Kwame Nkrumah had proposed and called on all the presidents at the time that we have to unite as a people, because how can a nation as small as Togo confront a nation like the United States or like France? They cannot withstand them. How can a nation like Benin confront nations or Western nations? How can even a nation like Nigeria confront the United States? But that if we have a united bloc, if we all as Africans come together as one entity and have something like a confederation with our respective nations still standing as constituent states, but we have one confederation that makes decisions on behalf of the entirety of Africans, like we see in the EU. The EU, no respect, no individual countries enter into treaties or enter into agreements. They always do it as a bloc. That if we have to negotiate, let us negotiate as a bloc. With that, this continuous interference, this continuous continuous oppression of African nations, we will see an end to it. That's the only solution. That is why the West does not want the unity of Africans. Now, remember, we are looking at our currency. We have over 35 African currencies across the continent. You move from Ghana to Nigeria, you change your currency. You move from Nigeria to Cameroon, the currency changes. But you ask yourself, how has this improved the African economy? None of our currencies is actually strong. Yet we all have different currencies. And that was why even the likes of Gaddafi even proposed and said, let us have a united currency. Let's have one currency called the Afro, backed by the Libyan gold at the time. But we saw what happened now. They killed Gaddafi. Because if we had had an Afro, one united currency that we use for trade. Now we have talked about the African Continental Free Trade Area, where we have seen over 40-something African nations signed into the African Continental Free Trade Area to make it easy, to bring ease to trade and to other affairs within the continent. Now we have seen that happen. Now, how effective has this also been? How effective has it been that I can move my goods from Nigeria down to Ivory Coast without much restriction, without spending so much on interborder taxes and all of that. Now, this is what we are talking about. We must now translate into making sure that we have one currency. We are continuing to trade with the dollar for too long. And they know that the moment Africa rises and unites and have one currency, that the dollar fails. Because the strength of the dollar is the continuous trading of Africans with the dollar. They know it. That is why they will try to frustrate everything we are doing. You know, the irony of what we even try to do as a nation or as a continent is that we came up with the African Bank, the African Development Bank, We came up with the African Development Bank thinking that it was going to replace the World Bank and these other IMF and all that to help develop Africa. So you ask yourself, who are the greatest contributors to the African Development Bank? It is still the United States. So what is African about it? What is African about it? Because these people control everything we do. We are controlled by the West. So we still have this neo-colonization ongoing within us. And Kwame Nkrumah warned about it, that we should not feel relaxed. We should not feel comfortable because the imperialists, the colonizers are still alive and well, they are still available. They warned about it, but we do not listen. And you know, the quest to remain in power, the quest to control our respective nation has also made the quality of leaders we have now to always run towards the West to gain power. We saw that happen in 2015 when the APC leadership went to America to see how they can get the support of America. We saw that happen, and they got it. Even the APC today, we are even hearing that America will have to interfere and intervene in our elections. And these are quite funny situations. And we cannot get that complete independence if we continue to look up to this particular nation. America does not have a perfect democracy.
But you know,
they have one of the most system.
but comrades, some individuals, for as much as your ideologies may seem correct, some individuals will say we need these, we need our colonizers, because when we talk about insecurity in Nigeria, if it wasn't for the interference of the United States coming in, our leaders were lackadaisical when it comes to trying to curb this menace of insecurity. But with interference, everyone is up on their toes, working, seeing how they can send troops, do all of these things. Some will beg to differ and say, for as much as we need them, and as much as we have to play like the tool with them, we can just create a balance in order to get what we want, and then they will do the biddings for us when it comes to, because our leadership here, some will say it's nothing to write home about.
Well, the truth of the matter is that you would always need a foreign collaborator. You would always collaborate with those from outside. But the question should be, what is the extent to that collaboration? We should also be able to define the extent to which we are collaborating with this person. Thank God you also said clearly that we actually have a leadership problem, not like we do not have a solution to our problem.
Exactly.
I continue to that we must use African solutions for African problems. Because every time we have an economic problem, we run down to the World Bank to give us IMF, to give us an economic solution to our own problem. But our market is different. Our environment is different. We know our challenges. What will constitute causes of global climate change within the United States cannot be the same factor within Nigeria. So we must learn to look for African solutions to African problems. But you know, one of the problems we have had is Western interference in our elections. The people who call leaders, we are given to us by the West, even up to tomorrow. They are given to us by the West. Look at the Francophone countries. I hate calling them Francophone countries because if you go down to this so-called Francophone countries, how many persons they speak French? You come down to Nigeria, how many Nigerians speak English? What's the percentage of Nigerians who actually speak English? But here we say we are Anglophone. But the point is this: now you come back to this. At our elections. Who are the persons who gives president? Who gives on this particular president? In the so-called Francophone countries, France influences the elections. They decide who becomes president. The even aid in the rigging of elections for these persons. That Paul Biya has continued to be president of Cameroon for over 45 years now is because France is okay with Paul Biya. France is okay with Paul Biya. Why is France angry with Traoré and his reforms? Why is France angry with Asli Tigoiba and his reforms in Mali? You ask yourself these questions. So this has continued to bedevil us. That's why you see now the former French colonies are now rising up. What are the English colonies doing? We're not doing anything. They continue to influence our elections. How do they influence elections? Through the media. Through the media. You see a particular candidate getting so much media support and media hype and all that. These are foreign interventions. We see them, when we see these ads, we know what it is. They control the social media, don't forget. And they use these things in our elections. They create narratives that actually influences the election. We are continuing to shout about these things. Now, in situations where they cannot influence the electoral body, they use the social media. We are continuing to see it. Now, when these persons emerge as president, what do? They become puppets because they know that they got aid and support from the West. Puppets to them. They carry out policies given to them by the West. None of our policies, 90% or 70% of our policies are not homegrown policies. They are policies collected from either the United States or from the West generally. And they tell us that this is what is best for your people. How can you know what is best for me that I can know for myself? And if they want to give you loan, they will tell you how to carry out the loan, what to do, what you must do with the loan. If you don't do it this way, you cannot get the loan. So when we see this type of situation, you ask yourself, what is it for Africa? What is the direction? Where are we headed to? So the problem is squarely leadership problem. If we have leaders who would take the bull by the horn and take up the responsibility to address our challenges. Remember when we have John Pombe Magufuli of Tanzania. John Magufuli of Tanzania. John Magufuli stood and said, no, we're not going to follow with whatever you're saying about COVID. That this COVID thing is not working in Tanzania. That is all in this. He came up with his own recipe. He refused to shut down Tanzania within the time. What happened? A few months later, we heard John Magufuli is there. And up to today, we have not seen the report of how John Magufuli died. This is the continent we're working. Somebody has to make money. So what they collect from Africa on an annual basis, it's crazy. Now you go down to all the French-speaking, the former French colonies. Let me tell you, there's something signed by every former French colony called the Pact for the Continuation of Civilization. The Pact for the Continuation of Civilization. What does this mean? It simply means that for every former French colony, France would have to provide their military uniforms and military equipment, for all of them, that all their savings, their foreign reserves have to be in the French central bank. And that for them to collect any money from their foreign reserves, they have to collect only 20% per time. Only 20% of that foreign reserve. And that it will be collected as a loan. As a loan. This is the continent we are talking about. This is the continent. And any issue of international importance or in the UN, that France has a first right of refusal. They would have to side with France. So what else is globalization if not what these people are going through? And the same thing we are also going through as Nigerians. It's a sad situation, and I tell you, we must be deliberate about our liberation. It may not happen by generation, but we should actually continue to have these conversations and to enlighten the young ones. That's how we talk about visionary leadership.
Okay.
The young ones have to also, and they have to learn this from the primary school.
All right, comrade, let's bring it home now. Let's bring it home to Nigeria now. 2027 elections just around the corner. We're already in 2026. Now, bringing it home now and becoming aware and knowing what is good for me or knowing what is good for you, do you think Nigerians are becoming aware with protests that is happening in Edo State, for instance? Individuals are making inquiries when it comes to, calling out leaders who are not performing, especially when it has to do with insecurity, basic necessities of life. Do you think as Nigerians, we're beginning to understand and become aware to, elect leaders who will actually act, who will actually do our biddings when it comes to the needful in impacting lives in our society?
Well, the awareness started from the NSAS protests, and but the point is, when you talk about politics is not. It goes beyond emotion. It goes beyond aggression. We must be able to organize ourselves. It is one thing. It is not enough to be angry. It is not enough to be aggressive. What is enough is to organize ourselves, because the current crop of political leaders are not willing to make way for a new set of persons to come in. So that organization must come in. We must be ready to organize ourselves, and that is where we lack the whole thing the most. We are not organized. Yes, we are angry. Yes, we are aware that there is a need for a change in leadership. But how organized are we to take over power from these people? We are not organized. So we're still seeing lots of young persons, rather than come together and collaborate, we are seeing a situation where everybody is struggling for their own personal survival. And that will not even lead us anywhere. It will not lead us anywhere. So everybody is struggling for personal survival. Nobody is struggling for this collective survival of ourselves as a people. So if we really have to get it right, beyond being angry, beyond being aware, it is one thing to have knowledge, but what you do with the knowledge is what is important. Everybody can get knowledge. Everybody can have that intelligence, but what you do with it, it's what is important. And that is the difference between the political actors and some of us who are angry. What do we do? Do we just sit down, sit tight and complain about the problems? We must take action. And one of those actions is to start organizing ourselves. Join the political party. Join political parties. Make necessary demands. And still hold strong to your tenets. Because if you do not join political party, how then do you make a change? How then do you turn things around within this nation? And the truth of the matter is this. I hear some people say, oh, nothing concerns me with government and all that. The truth of the matter is that everything concerns you with government, because one government policy will change your life forever.
Exactly.
So you may have your life going in a particular direction because of one government policy. Things will completely change. And your life will be bedeviled by a lot of challenges. So that is why we should be interested in each policy of government. We should be interested in each law that is being enacted. So most times, when somebody passes law, we don't even know that those type of laws exist, because as citizens, we are not even aware, we're not even interested. So we must be interested in governance, because whatever decision that is reached in government affects us directly. So we must protect ourselves. So beyond everything is organization. We must look towards organizing ourselves.
All right, comrade. Let's talk about one policy that it's really creating a lot of issues in the country. That's the tax reform bill. What's your take on the tax reform? Because, our president here says it's not for now, it's for the greater good of the future generation. Because you keep hammering on what we are going to leave for our generations that are upcoming and all of that. The tax reform bill, what's your take?
The truth of the matter remains that if you tax in Nigeria, if you provide good roads, good water, you provide housing, you provide electricity, you provide good healthcare services for Nigerians, and you ask Nigerians to pay 1 million naira as tax, a Nigerian will gladly pay that 1 million naira as tax without complaining. But when you collect these things from them, you collect heavy tax from Nigerians, and you are now asking them to make sacrifices, they will always complain. Because why? We do not trust the government of the day. You're telling us that these taxes is for the future. What future? The present ones, if we don't survive it, how then will the future one survive it? So we must first deal with the present situation. So if you're saying that these tax reforms that has come, it is just that we Nigerians who do not trust the government. I, for one, do not also trust the government. I do not trust the government because we have not seen what they have done with the resources they have collected thus far. They want how judicious have they used the resources? Aside enriching themselves and flaunting our wealth, how judiciously have they used our resources? So this has become a problem in the minds of many Nigerians, I must tell you. And until that issue is addressed, Nigerians will not have faith in this government and in their tax reform. So we must address the issue of, we must continue to address the issue of, the issue of giving to Nigerians the dividends of democracy. But because we have refused to give to Nigerians the dividends of democracy, what have we resorted to? We expect Nigerians to make sacrifices and to make commitment to it. So the tax reform, for me, now if we look at the shame they brought upon us, calling it the tax reform, where we see a situation where a House of Rep member is accusing the Nigerian government of distorting the actual tax reform bill that was passed and adding things to it. And no head has rolled up to this time. Nobody has been sacked. Nothing has been done. We have continued to see people work freely within this country. And we say we are doing what as a nation? And you want me to trust the nation that such a thing happened and nothing has been addressed in that particular regard? No, now it is difficult. The Nigerian government is making life difficult for Nigerians to trust the government. If not, if you provide these basic amenities, Nigerians I know will not complain. Nigerians I know will look for a way to align themselves with whatever the government has done. But this government every day makes it difficult for Nigerians to trust them and for Nigerians to believe in whatever they are saying. So if they say it is about the future.
All right, comrade, I think we can ask you our last question now, and hopefully you're able to blow this out in 2 minutes, right? When you look at developments, the recent ones in particular in our country, what do you see concerning 2027 polls? I mean, across board, from top to bottom.
Well, the truth of the matter is that 2027 will be another year that they will rig the elections. And after rigging the election, you will see people who will cry. The judicial will not come to our aid. And it is still what we are facing that we will still get to face in 2027. We won't have a situation where we will be safe or immune from this continuous judicial embarrassment to keep having. We will continue to have. It is still the same thing. Nobody should expect any difference. It is still the same thing because this nation is not serious. The nation is not ready for a change. And until we are ready for a change, my brother, it is still the same problem we will be facing. 2027, elections will be rigged. Tinubu will remain as president. Nothing will happen. And that's exactly what will happen in this country. Because we are not ready. Even this new INEC chairman, we all know he is just there. When the time comes, he will do his work, which was why he was appointed, to make sure that the president gets a re-election. So there's no hope besides, because we also have a docile citizens. Docile citizens who feel that nothing could be changed from the ballot as of today. Nothing could be changed. That is why they have refused to carry out the electoral reforms. Let the courts, if the courts can say the IRF, that all the results sent through the BIBAS to the IRF are the result that will be accepted. We want that legislation. Let there be a legislator or the court to give, let the court give in this judgment that only results on the IRF will be recognized. Then we can now say, yes, we are getting it gradually correct. You can now see politicians now going back and relying on the people. But so far as they know that they can rig the elections on the ground and get away with it and get an endorsement from the courts, I tell you, everything we are just doing is just self-deceit and nothing serious and nothing more pretentious about it.
All right, so this is the point where we'll say we express profound gratitude to you, Comrade Chetan Wala, lawyer, activist, and Pan-Africanist, for taking our time to join us on Global Morning today.
Thank you so much, Comrade, for being a part of the program Global Morning. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. God bless you.
God bless you too.
All right, great. The issue of politics and leadership really never ends.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, because of the evolving nature of it. And while we're talking about good governance in Nigeria, driving leadership beyond politics, he was able to expand it beyond the local frontiers to talk about continent-wide issue of how that we have seen so much of interference over time by foreign entities in the way we provide leadership here, especially as it has to do with our election. You know, one time, Juma, I got curious. I was asking myself, I mean, hold on a second. When there are elections in Africa, I mean, across the continent, you see different observers coming, EU observers, these observers, Americans. I mean, they are all on the ground here real time, monitoring our elections. And then you're asking yourself, when elections hold in the EU, across all the 26 or 27 countries within the European Union, for example, do Africans go to monitor, to observe?
Exactly. No, we don't. But they're here.
Because they believe they are grown-ups, they can take care of themselves.
No, they believe they know much more than us.
So the ball is in our courts, apparently, to take our own destiny in our hands.
Exactly, it's very important. For as much as we're going to play ball, like he mentioned, we need these international relationships with these individuals. But as Africans, I think we should go back to the drawing board and try as much as possible to unite as one in order to stand up to these international interference at some point. Because it's not all of their biddings we should agree to.
Right, sure.
Because when they come in and they interfere in our matters, it's for their personal interest. Very important.
All right. I think it's also in your best interest that we give way now, because sports needs to come through at some point. But let's just remind you that the views of all of our guests across all our programs, including here on Global Morning, are their opinions. As always, we are grateful for your time invested with us on the program. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And I am Jumai Manson. And thank you so much to our guest, Comrade Chetan, for being a part of the program. And I am Jumai Manson. Have an amazing day ahead. From Uyi and I will say bye-bye.